Here's a 4,000 mile review of my 2023 Ford F-350 TREMOR high output diesel. Let's see if there's anything unusual under the hood at 4,000 miles. Looks like coolant's all where it should be. Not seeing anything unusual, any weird sounds. No coolant leaks. Need to wash it a little better, but at least got most of the main bugs off of it after this trip. All right, here's my 4,000 mile review. Overall, pretty happy with the truck. Everything seems to be holding up pretty good. See this little indentation right here? I've had this on my 21 F-150, my 21 Raptor, my 2020 F-350, and my 23. When I drive, I set my elbow there. It does that. Unfortunately, the 23 is no different. All the ergos, buttons, really happy with the layouts. Happy with the fuel economy, towing, not towing. One of the things I really like are the menu options and the drive modes that were allowed. This is something that I think is really nice that wasn't available on the prior gen, and you can tell they're trying to compete with RAM in this area. So like you got all these different settings you can change your views. This is pretty neat and very customizable. Okay, another thing, def level. See, I'm at 100%. I've used and the ownership of this truck in 4,400 miles. I think I've used about 7 or 8 gallons of def. Just for perspective, of that 4,400 miles, probably around 3,000 miles of those are towing. So just for perspective. Apple CarPlay, not really having any issues, not glitching or anything weird there. Everything seems to be pretty decent. Features all work pretty decent. I have used the locker quite a few times in the yard, moving stuff around, and when we were actually doing some trail riding up north. This is probably the 10th Ford vehicle I've had with the Pro trailer backup. Never used it. Just doesn't seem to really be much of a benefit. Engine braking. This seems pretty solid. So I had a 2020 F-350, which now today would be considered the standard output engine. I've been able to get about up to 51% engine braking on the menu when we're towing downhill. I think it works great. I haven't had a chance to run it out west, but I've been very happy with how it works. One of the things that is a little bit weird to me is when you put your knee against this side panel. Not happy with that. And the passenger side does the same thing. My Raptor doesn't do that. I need to get that into the dealer. I just think that's a little bit ridiculous. It's done it since new, and it doesn't creak going down the road. It's only if you put your leg on it. Here's another thing that a buddy of mine, Mike, has a 2022 F-350, and he noticed this. This is something I didn't notice, but the change with the glove box. When you open the glove box on the 23 and newer, you hit the button, it goes up and in. When you do his, it just goes up, and he says sometimes it's kind of hard to see inside of there, so that's a nice benefit. Step outside here. The other big benefit for me, honestly, is the payload. I think that's a huge upgrade, and anybody looking for you know, pulling heavy or putting a lot of weight on the trucks, that's a great benefit that Ford added in 2023. Overall, when I look at the interior and everything, the seats are holding up real good. I'm not seeing any issues, any of the bolstering. I mean, this last trip we had 57 hours in the vehicle. DEF consumption's about on par with what I expected. I'm not seeing any issues. My boys definitely use and abuse this. I'm not seeing any indentions or anything really yet. From car seats, storage, locking storage, still awesome. Not much different from the prior gen. One thing I do think is pretty nice, they put this like little rubber mat, which it works really well at stuff not sliding. I mean, stuff sticks really good. Another thing, just some of the changes. If people are looking, if you look at a 22, you'll see some of the differences in the layout of the buttons. Now it's Lightning or USB-C in the rear versus the traditional. USB A or B, whatever that is. Let's see, exterior wise, some people, this is an option that some people don't care for. For me, huge, use it all the time. This truck is really tall. I'm 6 foot tall, but even getting in and out, this is extremely helpful. I also use the side step quite a bit, so good job Ford on doing that. I think that was a really good move. Let's see what else. The hitch, I think this is a nice upgrade. How they put the loops, it's easier to get your safety chains on and for running the emergency brake cable. Plus for me and my use, I'm never gonna put 25,000 pounds on the hitch. I'm gonna do that with a 5th wheel or gooseneck. I like that they went away from the 3-inch to the 2.5-inch hitch. It's one less adapter to use when you're using your standard hitch towing, which that's all I'm ever gonna do with a hitch. So tires, this is a highly subjective thing. Me personally, I'm not a big fan of them. I think they have a lot of vibration, and when I say a lot of vibration, I do a lot of highway driving, so I get a lot of time behind the wheels, and I don't like the sound, I don't like the feeling. But here's the benefits. They're gonna be awesome off-road. They're gonna be great in the snow, great in the rain. We did a little bit of 2-tracking in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, and they're great. I mean, if you get them in an off-road situation, they're phenomenal. I don't think that you're gonna be disappointed with that. Plus, they look really cool, made in America, really great. Power extending mirrors, not had any issues there, work great. Side markers, under lighting, these all work great, no issues there. Let's see, some people had questions about the headlights as far as the reflector versus projector. So I have projector LEDs in my 2021 Ford Raptor, and I don't know, it's probably better, but it's not a huge difference, and I haven't driven a new Super Duty with the projector headlights to compare. But I'm going to give you some of the benefits to this versus a projector. You hit a bird, you hit a deer, you do something, you break it. This is going to be a much cheaper replacement, if you have to replace one, than your projector headlights. People are already making comments on the rear tail lights about, oh man, I can't believe Ford went with halogen bulbs in your reverse and tail light and turn signal indicators. At first, I was a little bummed out about it too. I'm not gonna lie. You know, I think it looks a little sharper. But I have cracked one of these on my last truck, and a standard halogen backup light is about 2 to 3 times less expensive than an LED rear tail light. And for me, honestly, the red backup lights, it's purely cosmetic. It's not any better performance. The most important thing here for me is my reverse lights, and guess what, on a Lariat Ultimate, these are LED and they're very bright, no complaints there. So I don't think there's a lot of trade-off there and a lot of issues. Another thing, the Azure Gray, it's wild to think they actually call it gray, because you look at it right now, it looks pretty blue to me. We get a lot of compliments. I like it. This is not normally a color I would choose, but it is cool. I would actually do it again if I were to order one again, which, by the way, I do have one on order. I think the biggest thing for me of why I would say, if someone's on the fence of do I want to upgrade or not, you know, it depends on your truck situation. If your truck is paid for, or, you know, are you at miles or something where you need the upgrade? Because the 2020 to 2022 trucks are really nice. The 10-speed trans, all the upgrades, they're great. For me, the interior upgrades and the ride comfort, worth it all day long. The differences that Ford made, I guess supposedly in the radius arm and the position of the caster and the rear axle, it's a considerable difference in ride quality. And for me, that's worth it. If I can get better ride quality. I mean, everybody that drives this truck is surprised it's a 1-ton truck. It rides and drives really good. One thing we've noticed is if you work the truck enough, like, you know, we were just towing 12,000 pounds. I think it went 500 miles, and I didn't have one active regen. Everything was passive regen, so I was pretty happy with that. Still happy I didn't go with the cab lights. I kind of like the clean look. I don't need them. It's just more holes in the roof, and other issues for leaking down the road. Suspension towing, it's amazingly compliant. Almost in a way, could be even a little stiffer. I don't know if that's maybe the trimmer package, or if it's because I had 3,400 pounds of payload on the truck on our last trip, but I was not disappointed. I haven't felt any squirreliness with the fifth wheel, and I'm really happy with how well it does with our fifth wheel towing. Some areas for improvement. This is one. I think they should have ran LED bulbs on the rear bumper. Some other areas where I'd like to see them improve is obviously I just mentioned the squeaking right here. I think that's something that should be improved. I'm not a fan of that. I have noticed that a little bit of here and there, like, I don't know if I'd say glitchiness, but some things happening with the screen and display that I'm sure Ford is going to have some over-the-air updates to address. But I could see some improvements down the road there. All the heating, air conditioning, heating controls, awesome, no issue. Cooled seats were great, heated steering wheel, heated seats. Storage, great, no issues there. Good job, Ford. Aux switches. Here's another thing that I would like to see that I'm kind of surprised is not on a Lariat and above, that is on my Raptor, and maybe this is something that's just changed on Ford. It doesn't have the self-dimming side mirror. That kind of drives me crazy going down the highway at night and you get in glare. I'm just not used to that. My last few trucks did have that from Ford, so I'm kind of a little bit surprised by that. Another thing to me, it's not a huge deal because I know there's reasons for it and it's just something you keep aware of, is the brake dust. So I just washed this truck about 10 miles ago and you can already see some brake dust building up, even on the tire. You know, that's one thing that it's just their brake pad formulation that they've chosen to go with. Ride height, I know the looks are subjective, but I think the new one looks really awesome and I have no complaints there. Front end seems to be holding up pretty good. I didn't really notice any real big rock chips out of the ordinary for all the highway driving we do. No, everything looks good. No rock chips on the windshield. The power, the HO, you know, that's subjective, but I think this thing rips. It's surprising how much power this thing has, especially in that 1400 to 1800 RPM range. And I think the thing that shocks me the most is how strong it pulls above 2000 RPMs. So that's where the one thing I've noticed when you're going down the highway, when it's climbing RPMs, how fast it climbs. I don't remember the responsiveness in my last truck. Heads-up display works great. No issues there. You can customize and kind of show the different settings. Some of the things I'd like to see change on the heads-up display is I wish it worked better with polarized sunglasses. I pretty much drive almost all the time with polarized sunglasses on, and when those are on, it's almost worthless. You can barely see the display. The other thing is, to change your heads-up display, you have to go and hit your menu and go here and then go into adjustment if you want to change brightness, if you want to change positions, if you want to change the content of what's being shared, and drive mode layout. Now, if you're going down the road, you can't adjust the content or drive mode. You can only do it in park. Adjustment, you can change these. But if you're going down the road, it feels like a lot of effort to change this and taking your eyes off the road. I like where GM has just a button down here, and I wish Ford would do something like this where you could just keep your hands on the road and just kind of, you know, touch the buttons and change that. Overall, I really think Ford hit it out of the park here. I have zero complaints. I'd buy the truck again in a heartbeat. I know the new GMC coming on board is really awesome. That AT4X would be something I consider. I still have a hard time going away from Ford though. I think it's a great truck. There's a lot of things of the Ford I like better. I like the aluminum body. I live in a salty area and I like that I'll never have to worry about rust. I think the frame and powertrain and everything is so beefy on this new Ford. I like that the, here's another thing. I like that Ford has an E-coated frame. As you can see right here, it's E-coated. The GM truck, it's wax coated. And we do a lot of dirt road driving, and the wax coating looks terrible real quick. And then it starts rusting. Probably one of the most annoying things I'd have to say about the new Ford is all these chimes and warnings that come on. When you start this thing up, you have all kinds of things. See the screen right here, seatbelt? You can't do a thing. Okay, sorry, you can't actually. If someone is in the passenger seat with their seatbelt off, just sitting, you can't get into any menus or do anything until they buckle their seatbelt. I think that's pretty annoying. I wish there's a way to turn off some of the chimes and settings. You get out of the vehicle, like, you know, there's constant chimes and settings, you know, coming on the screen. I wish there was a way to disable that, because that does annoy me. And there's been people talk online that the back OK and menu button is just going to get wore out because people are constantly hitting this to get rid of the messages constantly coming up. Backup cameras and features, it's not much different. It's just maybe a few more options than the prior gen. I do find sometimes it's a little bit slow in responding, but I think it has a lot to do with like what you've got going on in the background. If there's a lot of moving stuff, I would like to see a little bit better resolution at some point on the cameras, especially when I'm like hooking up hitches and fifth wheel. It's a little granular when you're doing that, but it's better than nothing, and I'm not going to complain. It's still really awesome. Otherwise, I mean, this is a great truck. I think anybody that decides to make the purchase will be very happy.